talk to me a little bit about randomized constraints, which is kind of
absolutely.
gets into that area as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I found very interesting is this concept of just that we usually, as kind of Kahneman would say, or is this idea of like we're very optimistic about how things will work out, especially for decisions that we end up making ourselves. And so I think Gary Klein with the premortem is a great example of trying to push on like how will we fail or how could we fail. But one of the things that I've used as a technique is to really start to apply random constraints to a particular, like when we do a bunch of ideation, we do what's referred to as like divergent thinking, right? We're trying to get as much variance in ideas as we can. And then we start talking about like convergent thinking. We're trying to now say, based on kind of how we value things, and that's usually your strategy or like prioritization or something like that, right? Like OKRs could even be another way that you do that.
This is red teaming 101, is moving from divergent thinking to convergent thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that idea of randomized constraints, I think, works really well in the convergence, because if something like X would happen, what would that mean for the solutions that we were considering? And so that could be, in the case of say technology, is like, what if we only had 2 days to build this? Right? What would you do then? Like, and that is a very much like a constraint in the way of like, what is most important about this actual thing, or what do we need to learn, or what do we need to do? But the other side of this is like, what if I gave you like an unlimited budget to do this? Right? What would that mean? And so I'm playing with constraints in a bunch of different ways that I think like, Dave Snowden would talk about them more as like governing constraints. I think there's like, again, I still am trying to internalize the way that like emerging constraints and governing constraints actually interoperate with each other. But I think like this idea of playing with like, what are the rules of the system, end up helping you actually understand what's valuable. And I've even taken this, I've even taken this to the idea of like, I want you to come up with a bad idea right now. And the idea of a bad idea is that there's a very complicated way that you evaluate what is good inside of your head. And you use probably many, many dimensions. And so saying what is bad is you're trying to take the opposite of that. But it's not always true that that thing is a bad thing, because if you relax one of the constraints that you would have had otherwise, that could be a good idea. And so the example did like a session that was like around adversarial product management. And at the beginning of that, trying to bring home the point about bad ideas, is I asked everybody, what would be some bad ideas with regards to a meetup, right? And so someone said, don't advertise it at all. And I said, well, that's usually a bad idea. But what if it was like actually a very exclusive thing, right? I only wanted word of mouth to actually like people to hear about this. That would be the way I would do that then, right? Or what if you like, you only want to be like, you want to be good, you want to be nice to people, you don't want to be rude. And I was like, well, I've been to like many restaurants, like there's a restaurant called Dick's Last Resort, where basically the waiter's job is just to like insult you the entire time. And people seek out this restaurant to do that, right? Or you go to like stand-up comedy because people are...
I don't get that, by the way,
yeah.
but I know it exists.
And so I guess like the point is that we're taking things that are potentially norms or assumptions about the way the world works, and we're flipping them on their head in some way, because the constraints are actually really key to the way we end up making decisions.